Talking about shadows is super important for graffiti because shadows is, in my opinion, the thing that makes graffiti pieces really come alive. You have basically two different versions of shadows. You have the 3D shadow and then you have the drop down shadow. I'll show you in a minute what I mean by this. And of course, when we reach in episode 10, 3D graffiti, then we can look at shadows in another way. But for now, we will just focus on these two simple shadow types. Shadows are what gives graffiti pieces depth. Like you can really see shadows as the thing that makes it come out of the walls. So it looks like you can almost grab it with your hands. And you are applying, like it's most common that you are applying the drop down shadow to throw ups and then the 3D shadows to pieces. But I'll show you some examples right here. As I just said, there are two main shadows that you're differentiating between. There are drop down shadows and then there are 3D shadows. And I want to start out by showing you what a drop down shadow is. So if I'm just making an object like this, if I'm making a drop down shadow on this, let's just say it's an eye, it's basically just taking this exact outline and then pulling it just a little bit down to the right and replicating that outline. And this is if we have a light source that are coming from up here. So it will look something like this. Yeah, okay, this one, like this. Because then what happens is that we actually just did the exact same letter just behind and then pulled it a bit down. So if I were to outline this now, this is the original outline. We're making the second outline just behind, because now it looks like it's hovering a bit on top of the paper. This is commonly used at like at throw-ups, because if I'm just doing a normal just like if I'm just writing NOR like this, then you will often see just drop down shadows that are being added to it. Because now you can see I'll just make it first and then I'll draw them up afterwards and make it more simple. This is very complex for the beginning, but I'll just show you what I mean. So if I'm taking a look at this and trying to analyze it, this is actually just, I'm just making the same letter behind it, the O here, and the R is going there and there. So as you can see, like that. Maybe this is too difficult, but I'll try to build it up slowly. So this was an I. We're making an A like this. And we're having a light point that comes from here. We're just replicating the outline. We are always just trying to figure out how does it look like, just replicating it. So now it's like this, and behind it, it's actually running like this. Like that. Here, here, and here. Right? So this is what is called a drop down shadow. Now we have like a drop down that is going down to the right. You could also, if we are making the eye again, you can also have a light source that are coming from here. And then it would just look like this, where we're just pulling it down there. Or you can make one where the light is coming from straight up, then it's just straight down, like this. And a way, if you don't understand it fully, then you can see if I'm just taking my a light source from my mobile phone, then you can see the shadow that I cast from my hand is basically the drop down shadow. So if I'm moving the light source, the shadow is actually also moving, and it's the same principle that we are working with when making our letters. Maybe I can also do it with this. As you can see, like there's like the shadow is different from where the light is. Now 3D shadow is basically taking the same principle. We have the block again, making it to drop down. It's behind here. And now we are actually just connecting the two, like the corners. Now it's more a 3D point of view. As you can see, now we have made like a box that has a volume inside. So now it would look like this. So if I'm making this on the letter B, like this, and again this one was if we had a light source coming from up here. Let's say we have a light source coming from here. Then I'm making the drop down. I'm just replicating the outline just as before. And then I'm just connecting the different corners. And when I'm saying corners, it's actually like you should imagine that all parts of the visible new like shadow outline and the old outline is just like connected. So it's just a lot of connections between the first outline and the new shadow outline. So if you are just doing this close enough, we are imagining that it has no space in between them. Then it will become this 3D. As you can see, this is more like, now it looks like it's laying on top of the paper, and you can almost grab it. So if we were to analyze this again, this one is going in behind here. Maybe for you to understand it better, I've printed out this K in a 3D model. Because if we are just looking at it like this is just a flat K. But the 3D that we just added are actually all of the parts that are just like this. So if we're laying it like this, then the shadow is going this way. We're laying it like this, the shadow is going this way. So this is the original outline. This is what it would look like without having something in it. Like if we had a fill in, this would be all of this that are filled in. But you can see that some of the lines are hidden. And that is why we are not making this line here, because it's hidden behind it. Like this, like we're not able to see the lines that are actually over here because the shadows are going this way. When we are making this kind of outline, you don't have to, like when you, of course you can start with the drop down, like this, and then connect it. But once you get really skilled at it, you can actually just go straight to making it like this. Because now let's say we have a light angle that comes from up here. Then we have always, we are just going from every corner and pulling a line that has the same angle and the same length. So same angle this way, always, 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 and same length. And now maybe it makes sense, like the fact that we can't see we can't see this line that I'm pointing towards here. That's why I'm not going over here, because it's going behind, inside the letter like that. And when we are then we can just pull the lines from here to here, and then we would actually have the 3D. A very, very common mistake when making these 3D shadows is that I see my students, if I'm just making, I'll just make some different piece. Is that okay? Now we have made like the same distance from all the corners, same length almost. Now we need to combine them. And again, the reason why I'm not pulling this, oh, I'm missing all the holes in the letters. Also pulling it here and here, here. And the reason why I'm not pulling it over is because it's inside the P. And I'm not pulling this line here because that is also behind the P. Like you really, like it's, this line is the same as this. We cannot see it, so that's why we can, like we know it's there, but because we have a light source that was coming from here, we cannot see it. When we need to combine this, I'll just make some common mistakes, is that some are just doing like this, like that. But this is wrong, because when we are combining this, we just always need to think about it's the original outline that we're just replicating, just as with the other examples. So it would have to look like this, and here, because there are no curved elements. If the original outline was like this, then this would have been perfect. But it's just straight, so we need to do it straight. Sometimes there are also ones making like the shadows like this. And the thing that are wrong with this one is that it's not having the same direction, because you can see this one is actually pointing this way up. So this is acting as if there was a light source coming from down here, but we just agreed that the light source is coming from up here, so we should stick to this. So that is why it's always the same angle that it's having. Another common mistake could also be to make it too wide up here, because now again it's not following the original outline that we just agreed on, like this. So a perfect one like this would be, okay, I'm just imagining that this point is kind of the same as this point, so when I'm coming down here, I'll just imagine that I'm making this line. Maybe out here. And this one is here, so this one is here. This one has a little bit of curve at the end, as you can see. A little bit of a curve at the end. Right? Something like this. And when making, let's say you're making a P again, and you want to make a drop down shadow. A common mistake with the drop down shadow is also to like maybe making it like this, because again this one is like, now we have just taken the outline here and duplicated it up here, so this looks like there's a lightning source coming from here, a light source coming from here, but we just agreed before as well that it's coming from up here. So this one is correct because it has the same distance all over, but here it starts to bend. It should have looked like this. Then it should have ended here, because we're taking this outline again, just taking the whole letter and then pulling it a bit down. Right? When making throw-ups and pieces, you want to add shadows to it, of course. So when making, let's say, I will just write not, N-O-T. When I'm making a drop down shadow on this one, it would look like this. I have a lightning source coming from here, a light source, not a lightning source, light source. I'm just thinking about duplicating the entire outline. Now you should notice that I'm not going over the original outline. I'm never going over the original outline when making shadows. And I will show you why. Because this one is a correct drop down shadow. Now it looks like the piece is hovering, or the throw-up is hovering a little bit over the paper. And it's like the letters are in the same level. If I were to make a drop down over it like this, you can see I'm taking away a lot of the underneath letter. Now it really looks like it's going like this and this and this and this. I know I said before when combining letters that you shouldn't make it like I made the example from before, that you shouldn't make it like this, because then it's too crowded, or like this one overlaps this one. But it's when you're making the letters, then it's fine that it's like, then it should overlap like this. But when talking about the shadows, you should always think of them as in the same layer. So I'll just make another example. So NOR. If I were to make a 3D shadow for this one, I would again, okay, then I would say I have a light source that comes from here. Then I'm just thinking, okay, where are all the edges that I can pull my line from, same angle, same distance, same length. Copying them, like just copying the original outline. So this one has a curve, so I'm having a curve here. Like this. A very, very common mistake would be to like make this one go over the entire O, right? And maybe have an outline here that are also going over that. And if you could see, if I were to actually make that, then I would cancel out a lot of this letter. Like this whole part of the O wouldn't be visible. And this part of the N wouldn't be visible. So, and now you can really see like it's almost like it's laying like this, then this. And what our aim is actually that we want to have it in the same layer like that. So if I were to do this one correctly again, I'll show you in a way where it's maybe easier to understand. You have to treat the entire piece as if it was one layer. Now I'll just show you what I'm meaning with that. So now this is one whole shape. And now I'll just do a shadow on this one again. And again, we're having a light source that comes from here. Same angle, same distance, same length on all the lines. When I'm connecting it, I'm just thinking about duplicating the original outline. So then it would look like this. And then I could happily just fill this one out. And now, if I had to do the old outline, as you can see, then it would actually look like this. And now we would need to fill this one in as well. So now it's really correct. Now we are not hiding some of the elements of it. As the last thing I want to show in this 3D shadow is that you can make a vanishing point. So let's say we have like a standard straight up letter piece. Then we can have a vanishing point. Then let's say we have a vanishing point that are here. Then instead of just having a light source that says, okay, we are coming from here, then our light source is, everything is coming down towards this one. So all of our lines are just being pulled towards this area, or like towards this point. And again, it's everything that we can see. I'm not pulling, yeah, I could pull lines here, but they would just stop here. I'm pulling this one, but I'm not pulling this one on top of it. Like I'm again treating all letters as if they are in the same level. So something like that. And now we can cut them off. And we are doing this again with just by having the same distance. So this distance should be the same here and here. And with a lot of practice, you can do this super easily. But otherwise, take a ruler, like make a mark and say, okay, it's approximately 2 centimeters all over, so that I need to respect. Then you can just erase all the other lines, because now when I'm pulling the original ones, or like the final ones, it looks like I'm just filling this out because that was a mistake that I did it so early, but I hope you get the point. Now it looks like everything is coming down here, and if we had an exclamation mark here, the effect would be even more visible. Or if we had something out here, and using a vanishing point, I'll just do it on the sketch that we just did before. Let's say we have a vanishing point up here, then I'll just pull all visible lines, our edges to that point, just roughly. That. There's a lot down here. A lot of them is gonna be hidden, as you can see. It's, yeah, approximately something like that. And then I'm gonna cut them off in the same distance. Now we can really start to see the 3D effect. This is a really nice effect that you can make. It's quite easy to execute once you understand it. And it's quite effectful. So if I'm just making the final shadows here. Then once like you improve your graffiti skills, you can make all sorts of nice shadow elements in it, so it looks like it's the actual light that are lighting the entire piece up, and like really make it 3D effectful. Yeah, so something like this. So now you can see that everything is just going towards this point. And you can place this point all over the sketch. You could also have placed it in the middle, and then it would look like everything would go into the piece, and that also looks super cool. For this exercise, I want you again to take a new tag between 4 to 6 letters, and then make a 3D shadow on each individual letter. So first you make each individual letter using the log rule, and then add a 3D shadow to it. That could be with a vanishing point or just to one of the sides, like whatever you prefer. 5 different letters individually. After you have done that, then you should combine all the letters and then make a 3D shadow on the entire piece slash straight up piece that you just did with a 3D shadow on those. So first 5 individual letters, then combine and then make a 3D shadow on the combined piece together. Go.